or this imagery that we grow up with a ball of light. All of us, we grow up with a ball of light. And, like what happens in that ball of light, say someone said while growing up, maybe your mom said, you didn't want to share a toy with your sister or your brother, and your mom said, don't act selfish, or you are so selfish. And then you felt ashamed of that part of yours. And somehow, in your unconsciousness, you have unconsciously hidden that part of you, which you're ashamed to face now. And based on that, that becomes your judgment for others. When you judge others, you don't like that in them because you don't like that in yourself. Because someone told you off that that is a bad thing when you were growing up. So like this, there are many bits and pieces of us which we need to retrieve. The whole process of life is about individuation. Individuation is a process of integration, our whole self. You have heard of the shadow self, right? I think most of you have heard about the shadow self or the darkness or the dark night of the soul. These terms, you must have heard about those. This is all about our own persona. Persona is those parts of us, our split selves, which we are not aware of. What we think we are is only 5% of what we are. The rest 95% is hidden in the shadow of our unconsciousness. And it is like the whole journey of life is about retrieving those bits and pieces of us from that dark part or the shadow part or that unconscious part, which is not lit by our awareness of the consciousness. The whole idea is to bring those parts, bring it to the light of our consciousness by awareness. And now, once we acknowledge that, so if I have been betrayed, for example, I have to see that part as a persona of me, and then integrate it back with me, and then become again that ball of light, that whole ball of light, which we are. We are not that, like every time someone said they don't like something about you, just to be socially acceptable, culturally acceptable, religiously acceptable, we start hiding those bits and pieces of us, and we disown those parts completely, and we believe that we can never be those parts again, because then what will happen? People will not like us. I can't be selfish, because if I'm selfish, then no one will like me. But when we grow up, we completely forget about those bits and pieces of us. They remain our split cells in the shadow of our unconsciousness. And then we have given ourselves, we have written a new myth related to the bits and pieces of us which were accepted to the society, accepted culturally, socially acceptable pieces. Today, say when we are 20, 30 years old, we are just holding a slice of that ball. And based on that slice, we have created a myth. And that myth now governs the rest of our life. So why I chose this time to come up with this workshop? It's because if you notice, it is during adversity that we face the demons. Adversity means challenge. So right this time, with the COVID crisis going on all over the world, insecurity is creeping in. Insecurity could be health, could be relationship, could be job, could be anything. All of this is creating a certain kind of feeling within us. And that is giving us the opportunity to now address those parts of us which needs to be addressed. And maybe you have a question. So what do I mean by that? So adversity means that you're facing a challenge, which during a normal, say favorable condition, life is going on smoothly, you would not attempt to add a resource which you might have had lost while growing up, from the ball, then when you became that slice, those resources that you already had, which you have lost in between, you will need now during adversity. You need to retrieve those back again so that you can add on to yourself a new resource to deal with life, which in normal favorable condition we don't do. So adversity in a way helps us to build in resources, build in those parts of us which is a part of our whole. And once we can retrieve them back and become that whole again, we become completely resourceful to deal with any kind of situation. So until now, if any of you have any questions about what I said, please ask me before I go into another direction altogether. Please. Yes, Karen, please.
When you talk about these situations that have happened in our childhood, are there likely to be numerous, like hundreds of things to uncover? I can imagine there have been a lot of things that we've taken.
Yeah, there would be numerous parts of us, because we are, if we consider the whole consciousness as the universe, then you can imagine how many split parts of us are there, which we are, if we are only aware of 5% of those, then we have to retrieve 95% of that, right? So there are loads of it. So, but we can't deal with all of that together, right? So what we're going to address is, at this moment, at this adversity, at this challenging situation, what has come up now?
Right.
Depending on that, we're going to address that in the workshop. For everyone, it's going to be different. It's not going to be the same challenge for everyone. Maybe we are collectively in the same situation, but everyone will have different things to deal with emotionally. So that is what we are going to retrieve.
And so the tools you're giving us are they cover everybody's issue, if you like.
Yeah, we're going to give, it's not about giving you tools. We're going to do the 6 days, like every once in a week, 6 weeks, rituals through, I'm going to guide you through those rituals to find those parts which you have lost. It might have been from the mythology of your own grandparents that you have absorbed, from your parents that you have absorbed, from your childhood experiences that you have absorbed, from the lost innocence, like someone's told you off for being innocent and you don't like to, or like someone says that okay, my father was so nice, and my aunt was like very cunning and smart. So I see cunning and smart as a bad thing compared to niceness. But today in life, in order to deal with life, I need to be cunning and smart. But I will reject cunningness and smartness because I have been programmed to see that as a negative side. Because I rejected my aunt over my father. Now I need that resource today. How will I get it? If I don't travel back and collect that part when I have been ashamed of me being cunning and smart, and I have repressed it unconsciously. So we have to retrieve those parts back, which perhaps today I will need. My father was nice, but he lost all his property to my aunt because he was so nice. But at the same time, I want to be smart, yet I can't, because that will be disloyalty towards my father. So there are a lot of things that goes in our psyche when we develop ourselves today. It's not just straight black and white. There are so many gray patches in between that also needs to be looked into in order to retrieve it back. Does that answer your question, Karen?
It does. Can I ask one more? Is that okay?
Sure.
Is it similar to theta healing? I've done theta healing, and you go back and you
see
heal.
I haven't done theta healing, so I can't relate the two. But what I can say is, every therapy takes you to your past. It's just that the different rituals that we use in different therapy is different.
Right.
The basic structure of all modalities is the same.
Okay.
Okay, it's about integrating you. It's about finding your bits and pieces and becoming whole and together again. So which is that you connect to, which is that speaks to you, is your modality.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, please?
Hi,
Anything, please.
Sarmi.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, Gayatri.
Wanted to just check when you said personal mythology and you gave an example about your aunt and your uncle, your father.
Yeah.
So you were explaining the process. We got to accumulate all of these and then we do a ritual against it on a
Every single session that we do, every single week, we're going to do 2 to 3 rituals, which is going to be guided by me. And if you're going to use active imagination in those rituals, we're going to follow through and find. I mean, it's just a journey, you know. Like every day, you're going to unfold a part of that. So first of all, we have to find what is the problem today that has come up because of the adverse situation that we are all in. What is it for you today that has come up? So I know what has come up for me. If you know what has come up for you, then you will be able to address that and find that part and create a new mythology with the awareness and consciousness of the adult you today. Create a new mythology which is going to work for you now, not being guided by that unconscious mythology of yours, which we all have been programmed to function.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? No? Nothing?
Hi, SARMISTHA.
Who is this?
Yeah, here.
Hina. Yeah, Hina.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Yeah.
So, quick question. Just as a starting point, when you say we start with the rituals, does it really have to be any adversity that came up because of, like, I don't know, any insecurity or situation that came up because of the COVID-19 situation?
It doesn't have to be. But, you know, this is a collective adversity that we are in, adverse situation that we are all in. And because of that, we can easily find something that we need to work on.
Okay, so it can be general that you've kind of.
It can be general that you're already aware of for a long time that you want to work on, or it could be something today because of the situation that we are in. It's easy for all of those things to come up now.
Okay, yeah, clear. I think I'm following, and definitely with the sessions it'll get clearer.
Yeah, but as you said, it doesn't have to be that it came up because of the situation today. You might even want to work with something that was already there, unaddressed.
Okay, clear. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Is that it, everyone? No other questions? Cool. So where does it go from here? So basically, from here, as do you all understand? So what is it that we're going to address? And so let me give an example. You have heard the story of Jack and the Beanstalk, right? All of you have heard about it. So what happens in that story? When Jack comes home with those beans, what does his mother do? She throws away all the beans, right? And really condemns him. I'm sure if you can imagine, add your imagination, how angry that mother might have been, because that was her only source of income. Jack went and sold what she had sent him to the market for 3 beans, 3 pods, and he came back with that. Just imagine, every one of us, we have had similar myth, similar story leading our life. What if the myth was different? What if Jack had come back with those 3 beans and his mother would have treated the whole situation differently? Just take a moment and think, how would that story change? Drastically, right? He would have been a man with high self-esteem. His mother would have been proud of him for what he has done, came back with the beans, and she would have gone together, done a ritual of planting the seeds, planting the beans, and that those beans would have sprouted into that magical climber that goes into the heavens, and the rest of the story. But how the mother treated Jack, if that was different, then the whole life of Jack would have been different. So this is what is myth making. We make our own myths based on how we were treated, what part of us was not acknowledged or accepted. Based on this, does any one of you want to share your own personal myth, if you are okay with, like, any personal myth which, by whatever I have said until now, whatever you have understood? What would you like to share your myth so that I can help you with understanding it? Just as an example. No? No one? Okay, great. So I'll proceed with my myth then. Okay. So I did this workshop myself. And because I did it on myself and I found it so enriching for me, I wanted to share it with everyone. So while I was doing this, I understood how it affected me. I'll give you the simple example. I did this ritual with my grandparent, my parent, and then it came to me, my childhood, how it affected it. My grandmother, it's a story which I heard because I didn't meet my grandfather. He was dead by the time I was born. So my grandmother from my mother's side was the second wife of my grandfather. And in those days, back in those days in my country, they could have more than one wife, and it was legally acceptable. So my grandmother was very beautiful, young wife of an elderly man who was already married, had grown-up children. And unfortunately, when he died, the other part of the family took over all the family wealth for themselves. So my grandmother had 6 children, and grandmother and the 6 children were literally left on the roads. They had to be sheltered by my grandmother's brother. If he wouldn't give shelter, they would be literally on the streets. So from there, my mother grew up in her maternal uncle's home. She is the one who married my father, who had salary less than her, education less than her, and she controlled all the money at home. So, and me, I saw growing up my mother and father always in conflict because my father felt lesser than my mother, always. And my mother always was like, even the keys of the cupboard, she used to hide, like it would be in her, kept only for her. We had to ask her permission every time to take the key and open the cupboard. So, and me growing up seeing the conflict between my father and mother, because my father used to always feel less and put down by my mother, I grew up thinking, if I have less education than my husband, if I don't earn more than my husband, then my family, my marriage is going to be beautiful, perfect. And this is how I grew up, and that's exactly what I did. I married someone who just wanted a housewife, who didn't want someone, if I would be working, he said, I don't want a working woman as my wife. So are you ready? I said, yeah, I'm ready. That's all I wanted all my life. So then my struggle begins after that, because that's not what I wanted, it seems. What I thought I wanted was just a reflection of my parents' mythology, which I didn't want to live. And then I didn't know what I wanted. And then my struggle begins all my life. So whatever I am post my marriage, not before my marriage. So it was a struggle to become who I am. Now, so from this, a simple story. What do you understand about the mythology that creates, that governs our life? How our grandparents, whether they are directly influencing you or not, how your parents who are directly influencing you or not, kind of influences who you become later on. And that might be completely not truly who you want to be, because I wanted to be, free. I wanted my own freedom. I wanted my own name. I wanted everything that, my mother had. But I somehow deluded myself as a child that this was the only way to find love, to find peace, to find harmony in a relationship. Because as a child, you have, you don't have a panoramic view of life. As a child, you just see the things, what should I say, peripheral view. You don't have the panoramic view. So you just see one thing at a time. And that's, as a child, I just saw this, that my mother is, puts my father down because she has a higher education and more income, and I can never let that happen to myself. Khalas, that's it. Nothing beyond that. I didn't have to understand the complexity of the human mind. I didn't have the power to understand. I didn't have the power to reason that time. But when I did, later on, I saw how every bit and piece of the parents' mythology, the grandparents' mythology affects who I am truly. And then now I have the option, the choice to consciously acknowledge all of that as me. Me who didn't want to be that was also me. Me who wanted to be different is also me. Me who wanted to be different, I looked down upon that part of me now, because I didn't allow me to be different than what I thought would be the best for me. And that is the part which stayed in my shadow. That is the part which I had to retrieve, which I had to integrate back within myself, which I had hidden, I unconsciously had hidden, so that I can be socially acceptable. Someone will accept me, someone will acknowledge me, someone will give me the love, and someone will like me. So all of that I had fed my mind with, now I had to again rewrite. So all of us, I guess, we might have a similar story, the one that I just related, my own personal story. Most of us will have our own personal stories too, which governs our own mythology, as I said. And this whole program is going to help you to learn that, and then acknowledge through those rituals that we're going to do, resolve, and heal those parts, and then integrate back again and become that whole integrated self. This is if you understand what is this whole process of life, because as I said, we all think, okay, what is life, what is going on, and what is this whole process, what is this journey, what am I supposed to be, what am I supposed to do? Nothing. You're not supposed to do anything. You're just supposed to become whole again. That's the whole journey. You were born whole. You were the personality that you were when you were born, to the personality to retrieve back and become that same person. This is the whole journey. And there is nothing else. So work, relationships, health, everything that we go through in life, every person that we meet gives us an opportunity to identify those parts which we need to retrieve. Think about it. Every experience, every single experience that we go through, if you are a monk, if you're a holy man sitting in a closed cave or a room where there is no one, no interaction, you will not be able to understand those experiences. You will not be able to retrieve back. But through these life experiences, I'm growing up, I'm going to school, college, university, career, relationship, children, friends, everything that we meet, encounter, people, gives us another possibility, another possibility, another possibility to look at ourselves as a mirror, as them mirroring us, and find those pieces back and retrieve and collect it again. Whew. Any questions? Please go ahead. I'm unmuting you guys. I've spoken a lot.
Sharmishta, isn't that the part of evolution itself? Because everybody keeps shedding their beliefs, let's say the limiting beliefs or the mythological things that you said. And as we evolve, we are bound to shed them off. And maybe you have to acknowledge them that they are not right, the way you said about your example. In your example, that you were the same person who used to detest that self now, and you evolved to this current self. But this was also the part of evolution when you realized your new journey, when you realized the new callings, you let go of the previous self and allowed the new self to create. Isn't that true?
Yeah, but this is again what we are doing through this program. So, what we are doing as a human, we always have this opportunity only when we are in an adverse situation. So, with the awareness of consciousness, now, why do we have to wait for an adverse situation? Why do we have to wait for a challenge or a difficulty to come up to bring that part of us? Why don't we consciously understand that this is the whole process and let's do it? Let's work and figure it out. Let's bring us all back together instead of just waiting for something bad to happen, for our job, to go away, or a relationship to break down, or a friend to betray us to find that part of us.
Yeah.
We don't need the sadness to bring the best out of us. We can realize it now
Yeah,
that
we,
we're
we, we
aware.
don't have to go through pain
Yes.
to figure us out again. We
Yeah.
can, because now we are aware that this is the whole journey about. So why wait for another painful situation to come and strike us and then shake ourselves and then again get up and rise up and, be alert and alarmed again?
Yeah, I understand.
Sandeep Bothra, any questions?
Yeah, so I was actually thinking, you know, uh, those situations and those experiences, which you just said that we should not be waiting for. When you look back, if they did not come, you probably wouldn't know, because life was no less than a song till that experience happened and you woke up, and then you decided to take a step towards it. So maybe can you give us some insight on, let's say, if everything is fine and everything is going, you're on top of your world, would you still then, how would you, still then go to those areas, think about what needs to change and stuff? Because normally you would not think, like, life would be very
See,
happy. You are
definitely, Sandeep, you have a point there. So wherever we are now in life, most of us are in our 30s, 40s, 50s, right? Isn't it enough of experience to wake up now? And then how long do you want to wait? You're not in your teens where you want to experience more fun or more pain or more adversity to shake you up. If you don't want to wake up now, when will you want to wake up?
Yeah, that's
How
true.
longer? How much longer do you need? Tell me if is there, okay, I have to reach 50, then only I will sit back and think and contemplate about putting myself together. Is there an age for that?
No, I understand what you're saying. What I was thinking is that, is there a range of how much you can wake up? Is my question.
Yeah, there is no
So,
range. With
yeah.
all the awareness, there will still be 95% of yourself is in darkness, is in the shadow. So with all the awareness, how much of that you will retrieve? How much longer will it take for you in the whole journey to retrieve all of that back? This is just a
Yeah.
small attempt. Every time we are making a small attempt, that's all we are doing.
True.
Yeah.
True. Fair point. I think fair point.
Sharmishta, just one more thing. You said, I remember that there is this contrast that comes in our life, and we get more clarity each time we experience contrast. So that means, let's say, not so negative situations. Let's say we are evolved. Let's say we have understanding of this particular mythological self, and we overcome that.
Yeah.
Still, what I understand out of my reading and my 7 years of experience and what I'm doing, that contrast is always necessary to grow further. It might not be as bad as it can be like in the past, but it can be something which is subtle to give you clarity on what you want. And this is what Abraham Hicks and others keep on pointing, that you need to have contrast to have more clarity and your evolution to continue. Otherwise, life comes to an end. So is that thing correct with this, what you're trying to?
Yeah, and what I'm trying to say is that out of those 95% of you, how much ever you try, there will be so much more to find out within. There will be so much always. And this is, in this workshop, perhaps you will just figure out one part of that 95%. Now, if there is 95 parts of you that needs to be retrieved, you'll just figure out only one part. There'll still be 94 parts of you that still be hanging around in the darkness, which you need to retrieve later on. So there's always going to be so much work left. And trust me, I have been working on myself the longest that I know, 31 years, okay? From the age of 17, I started self-work, and I am 48 now. So for 31 years, I have been working on myself. And there is no end. There is so much of me left to be uncovered, understood. Every day is another day to, rediscover yourself. There is no end to it. There is so much of contrast in me, that, like every day, every time I get to figure a little bit of myself every single time. So I wouldn't say it will ever end. You cannot even think of that this is going to end one day, and one day you're going to be like feeling, oh, I have done it all and I have found moksha and let me just transcend now. I don't think that's going to happen, but this is just an attempt.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so if you guys don't have any more questions, I would like you to think about something that you might have figured out in this time, like for this period of global pandemic that we are going through, something that has struck you inside you, about you. So figure that out, think about it. And I'm going to do a small exercise for you to, go deeper a bit into that. All of you, just I'm going to give you 1 or 2 minutes to figure out. So once you understand, so this is what I've been going through in my personal space with the anxiety, stress. It could be related to health, okay? It could be related to relationships. Now that husband, wife, or boyfriend, girlfriend, partners, we all together in the same house for a long period of time. So you could be exposed to that. Or it could be, insecurities related to job, or whatever it is, whatever came up for you during this time. Yeah, look into it and just bring it to your awareness for now. Cool? All of you have that in your mind now? Okay, now I'm going to do a small exercise, a visualization exercise. So it would be nice if you could just, all of you, take the most relaxed position that you can. And this is also a part of the ritual from the whole workshop, the workshop that we're going to do. It's called Journey to the Wisdom of Your Heart. So keep in mind, bring into your awareness, what do you need guidance about? You need guidance from your heart about something that's bothering you, in the present moment, bring it to your awareness. And just choose one or two words or maybe a single phrase to represent it. Don't go into a big description of it. And then your journey begins as soon as you close your eyes. So close your eyes, take a deep breath, and put all your attention to your breathing. Each time you breathe in, say the word clarity. Say the word clarity, and as you exhale, silently say the word peace. Breathe in, clarity. Breathe out, peace. Continue this for a few more breaths. And as you do that, feel your body relaxing. Anytime you find your thoughts wandering, bring your focus back to your breath and begin to relax again. And now that you're much more relaxed than before, imagine being in a place where you feel completely peaceful. It could be a garden, a meadow, at the beach, or it could be just a quiet room in your home. It could even be an imaginary place altogether. But whatever appears, let it be let it be a setting where you're completely yourself, free from pressures or expectations. And you might be surprised where you find yourself. Just let your heart show you where it wants to meet you. Whether you're indoors or outdoors, in that imaginative place, imagine settling into the most comfortable spot. And enjoy the colors, the sounds, scents, and feel of this safe and special place. Just be there in that moment with all the sights and the sounds. And now imagine the topic that you want guidance about, the same topic in your mind's eye is just dropping in your open palms like a fallen leaf from a tree. and feel your distress embraced by the qualities of your inner sanctuary. And imagine holding this paper, this leaf, the fallen leaf in your hands, holding it, and then placing it on your heart. And then just wait as you place it on your heart. You know and you believe that you're about to receive clear guidance from your heart. In your sanctuary, ask your heart for a wise and loving response to your issue. And just trust that your heart will give you the wisest response. And let your heart's reply appear as an image a few feet in front of you. Whatever symbol appears, receive it as an honored guest, whether it is a color, a figure, a phrase, or an impression. Just notice it. Notice its texture, shape, and sound. Feel the qualities of the image. What does it want you to know about your concern? Ask yourself. How do you feel in the presence of your heart's wise advice? Whatever you receive, just receive with gratitude. And now thank your heart for the guidance it offered you. And allow the image, the sound or impression to fade for now. And this impression, this wisdom, can be carried within you. In your daily life, into the vessel of your awareness. And take a moment in your sanctuary to notice your feelings that linger. Anything that feels valuable to you from this experience. Take a moment to let your body, mind, and emotions memorize whatever has been most valuable, so that it will be very familiar and accessible to you. And the next few minutes, you're going to bridge this wisdom you discovered by finding practical steps that transform your insight into action and presence. Because just the wisdom, just the awareness isn't enough. After bringing it to your awareness, to your consciousness, it is the adult you who needs to implement, take steps to create what you want. Bringing your heart's wisdom into your daily life is what will integrate this guidance that you received. What would it involve? Ask yourself. Would it involve a conversation with someone, or a daily practice, or changing or letting go of a pattern? Decide specifically where, when, and how you will begin. What will be the first step? So keeping all of the guidance and the initial awareness and the conscious steps that you have decided to implement, the basic, the very first ones, keeping all of that in mind. Now come back to your breathing once again. Focus into your breathing. And slowly and gently, you can open your eyes back. And if you have a piece of paper and a pen next to you, and if you'd like to note down your insights and whatever small steps that came into your mind to apply that, please do that before you forget. So during the workshop, we are going to do many such rituals. And after every ritual, you're going to take your pen and paper and write down the insights. And then there will be time in this workshop when you have to write your own fairy tale. The fairy tale which is going to be the fairy tale of your old self. And then after understanding what the fairy tale was about, you're going to recreate a new fairy tale. And when I did this workshop, I found it so difficult to write a fairy tale about my life. I thought, how can a fairy tale has to have this grandiose, once upon a time, there was a king and a queen and a prince and a princess. Oh man, my life was so simple. I couldn't find any point that I could relate to a fairy tale of my life. And then slowly everything evolved. I wrote a fairy tale about my own life. I wrote a fairy tale where the first part of my life where I became the fairy. I was the little baby fairy, and then my wings were stuck to myself. I couldn't fly because of whatever I believed in. And then how, through the next part of my life, it was the next part of the journey, the next fairy tale that I had to write about myself. I found in this new myth the ways to again unstuck my wings so that I could fly again. Because that was the new fairy tale that I had created. Once all of this is done, the workshop, it will help you to create a new pattern for yourself. And after you create it, after it's done, the work doesn't end there. The work continues because you have to apply that in your life. Without application, there is no result. I do a session, I do a workshop, and that's it. No, all of that now has to be applied into your life to create a long-lasting change. Because whatever we practice is what we become. Guys, I need your feedback. I have unmuted you guys, so please say something. All participants, in case you want to say something now.
I resonate with you, what you said, that the true power is in the application of knowledge. It's not that we get to know something and then we do the workshop and forget. It's always like on a daily basis we apply what we learn.
So we are bringing the unaware part into our awareness, from the unconscious to our consciousness, and then what, right? That doesn't end, right? Now that it is there, either after integration, that say I gave you the example of that girl who hated her cunning and smart aunt, right? Now she needs that cunningness and that smartness, but she has to balance it with the kindness so that she doesn't become like her aunt. She doesn't fall off like her father. So this whole integration is where I am when I need to be cunning and smart. I am still, my father's kindness is still with me. I don't let it go away. I don't become ruthless and cunning. I am kind and cunning at the same time. So this is the application, that then we become who we want to be, and we can use every part of us. We don't have to hide anything. We don't have to be ashamed of something that we are, and we can use all those parts and become whole again. No one wants to say anything? Please. My earnest request, I want to hear you. I hate looking at the screen when no one says anything and I'm the only one talking. It's like,
please. Hey, can I ask about the course details? Is there more information on the illuminations?
Yeah, I'll ask them, Karen, to send you all the 6 modules every once a week that I'm going to have. They have a different structure altogether. So what rituals we're going to do which day, they're all going to be different. So it's already done, and I can ask Illuminations to send it over to you.
Okay.
Cool then. Nothing else? Okay, awesome. Then.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank
You're
you.
most welcome. And I hope I see you guys in the workshop. And I'm really looking forward to share this experience with you. Really, really looking forward. Because when I did this, I really found it very interesting. I have done a lot of work on myself, a lot of self-work on myself. But when I did this workshop on myself, it revealed even deeper parts of myself, which was in my unawareness, which was in my unconsciousness, that came up. And immediately the first thought that came into my mind, it would be such a wonderful, simple rituals, simple techniques to reveal those parts of us. And it's so simple, so easy. It wouldn't be a very difficult one. And all of you, like as Karen said, you and Ritin, every one of you, all of you have been going through your own journeys of self-work. So I'm sure, it's going to be even more easy for you to identify those parts. So thank you, all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for coming over.
Thank
And
you so
wish you a good evening, the rest of the evening, a very good one.
And to you.
Thank you.
To you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a
Thank you.
lot. Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Bye,
much.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.